narratives that are come through textiles, and then Divya's taken this one step forward, working more in the contemporary sort of arena, looking at contemporary expressions, whether people are talking about migration, or they're talking about objects that are not used anymore, or they're talking about...
I went through that, and through that, the stories that you see downstairs, that's what came to life. So these were women telling their own stories. And you know, as women, we tend to not think, we generally tend to think what we want to say, our voice is not as important, it's just how, it's just what things we talk about at home, right? These stories are not so important. These are things...
The religion, and the women didn't. So he taught the women how to weave. Also, people look at her, like if she's a good weaver, if she's a neat weaver, then they say that she'll be organized. From, you know, one short little sort of episode like that. And then they say women reject. And then it's very interesting because in, you know, in most, it's not a random thing. They have a very carefully worked out system where all the names are written down. You know, who played in Champagne used to go on long journeys to Tibet for salt, then to Himachal to trade, to Zanskar.
Stories, what I decided to do was, for me, it was most important that the material stay intact, that the feeling stay intact. What I could experiment with was we went on like that. So this one, for example, we called it lay, because lay is the enclosure in which the animals are kept, right? And the entire community really sort of takes their animals' precedence, and wherever they...
And these are also sort of the two oldest crafts known to mankind, or man and womankind. So we because it kept them warm, or they were using them as coverings at night, and then obviously the lokpa.
5 lakhs 10,000 this ruminants, small ruminants, sheep and goat, out of which we are having 2 lakhs of around 2 lakh 10,000 pashmina goats in Leh, and around 50,000 in Kargil. Just we are just looking after the Zanskar and other parts of the district, so that we have a maximum number of these pashmina goats. As far as sheep is concerned, that is at the declining age, because we are having around 1.8 to 2 lakhs in both the districts. As far as my departments is very keen about this decline in numbers, and there are many more factors. Everybody knows, you know, maybe might be climate, urbanization, and livelihood, and pasture development, and we are working on land development on the UT level. So in coming years, how we can conserve, preserve, and look after their livelihood. And one of the, as far as my experience is concerned, and we are also keen to work on that. Before 10 years, even department is pushing up with the self-help groups, so that in that villages, women, folks, and men can go for it.
I mean, tourist is still, you know, like, okay, you know, like, it wasn't that tourist, but now you are getting it. I mean, that back then, you know, it was few, you know, like a bunch of, you know, like Western tourists. Indian tourists started coming later. So we started in 2010, August 5th, the day we started, there was a cloud burst in the evening. And we again stopped, you know, shut for, you know, like a month long. We were looking for where is our own staff. Some of our staff was from, you know, even downtown, mainland, you know.
Something in Ladakh. And so both of our fathers were working in the government handloom department at that time, and they were the ones who initially gave us the idea and encouragement to do something with Ladakh's textiles. You know, they had idea and the knowledge about the artisanship of Ladakh, and also Pashmina. So for me, initially, doing a kind of a business, the idea was almost repulsive. I thought that I was not interested in doing Pashmina, business. My idea of business at that time was just buying and selling things. But then we came back to Ladakh and we studied about the fiber that Pashmina is, and the history of how, as you mentioned earlier in your presentation, that how just because of this fiber, Pashmina that became part of Jammu and Kashmir first, and then became part of India. So that was really interesting, and
more or less wherever I went, I would see women working, I would see them weaving, I would see them spinning. And when I was visiting people in Chanthang, and when I came back here in Chuglamsar, everywhere there were women. I did not see, I almost have never seen a single man weave here, because also this was recently, this was 2 years ago. So, and having come from Kutch, so I'm from Kutch and I worked in Kutch before coming here. there most artisans are men, and they practice the primary act of weaving is practiced by men, the primary act of printing is practiced by men, everything which is the most important bit of a process is practiced by men. But that was not the case here. Women in touch only aid the men. They might help with spinning, they might help with some things, maybe during the warping they lend a hand to help. But and this also reflected the way they were dealing with money. So when in Kutch, if I pay somebody, it goes to the man. I pay the man, and if it trickles down like a household, I pay a household. And then at the end of the day, the woman might get something, might not get something. That's not important to them. Only maybe with like embroidery a bit, and that's also a very recent change. So when you hand the money here,
Ma'am, could you tell about today's exhibitions and today's discussions?
So the exhibition is called Threads That Talk, and it's looking at textiles from Changthang. It's looking at traditional historical textiles, which is the part of the exhibition that I have curated, and it's looking at sort of the spiritual values that are embedded in the textiles from Changthang, the stories that they tell, whether it's about family relations, it's about religion, it's about culture. So we're looking at all these kind of stories that are told through the exhibition. Then in the second part of the exhibition, Divya Dubey, who is a graduate from NID, this is part of her graduation project. She's worked on narrative textiles with women from Changthang, looking at new expressions of contemporary textiles that come through the textiles they've made. And I think this is also only possible is because the Changpas have always used textiles to tell stories, whether it's about their culture, their life, family relations, women, anything. So it's a very natural step to then move on to telling sort of maybe modern day contemporary stories also through their textiles.
So what's the vision behind this exhibitions?
I think the vision behind this is just to present sort of one part of Ladakhi textiles. I think Ladakh has such a rich and important textile tradition that we would like to start showing that. There's a lot of people here also working with textiles, from Jigmit Couture to Lena to Zilzom, Namza. There are so many brands here now, nomadic woolen mills. Last year Ladakh got GI registration for Pashmina. So I think there's a lot happening here with textiles, and there's a lot of potential as a market for textiles to grow. Visibility is growing, and I think we would like to focus on some of that. Understanding what is happening today, but also in that context, looking at what happened in the past.
Is it the exhibition for long day?
Pardon?
Is it the exhibition for only one day?
No, the exhibition has been on since the 6th of June. We opened, and it will close on the 6th of August. So it's about another 3 weeks. We've had a lot of student groups visit us. We've had Lamden School, Mission School, Siddhartha School, Imamia School. So we're really glad that students have been able to come here also and see the exhibition.